allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Could I get a roll call, please?
Sure, Brian's missing. We have Lexi here, Justin,
Here.
John, Jeff.
Here.
So.
This time I just ask the council to approve adding resolution approving additional work at Kelly Oaks Park and resolution approving REAP application and local effort for the Kelly Oaks Park project to the agenda before approving.
Can I add one thing, Mayor?
Yes.
The reason that we need to add those is the REAP application it's due August 15th, which today's the 13th. And then the work that needs to be added to the cul-de-sac in Kelly Oaks needs to be done now while they're working on that project rather than wait. Correct?
Yes. Yes. They were all.
Motion to add to the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda adding G and H to the.
I'll second it.
Lexi, aye.
Justin, aye.
Jeff, aye. Motion carries. Open it up to citizen comment pertaining to the agenda for this evening. And just Jason is online.
Well, he hasn't identified him. The caller has not identified themselves. I just know that he said he was going to call in.
Okay,
So if he does or she speaks, then they need to identify themselves.
okay. So it's open for citizen comment at this time. Go ahead and close the citizen comment and need a motion to approve the consent agenda if there are no questions.
Alcohol license for St. John, is that for the fall festival? Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Lexi, aye.
Justin, aye.
John, aye.
Jeff, aye. Motion carries. On to Parks and Rec. Stacy?
Okay, sorry, I just have one question at the end, but do you guys have any questions on any of this? I have a couple updates, but
Were you able to get the sprinkler fixed?
yes. It actually might have been a blessing in disguise, because obviously I've been struggling for a very long time getting stuff fixed on Spiegel. So while I couldn't go further than just the spigot, once the semi-pro tournament wraps, we are going to slowly start to work on the other system. Now that I have someone else, he said he would come out and take a look at it and see if we could get the current system that we have fixed. I told him where I stand on it, but he believes that anything is salvageable, so we're gonna at least try it. So I'm hoping, I told him where I believe I have broken pipes and whatnot, and he, based on what I told him, still thinks we can salvage one we have. So we're at least gonna give it the good old college try and see if we can get it repaired once and for all. So there's that.
Perfect.
Along with that, then I'm just gonna keep going. The golf sim that I sent in last week, I did get an email today saying it is fixed, and then I'm gonna get another email saying with shipping back directions, or not directions, but whatever. When they're gonna ship it, they're gonna email me, so I know kind of when to expect it. So hopefully we get that back sometime this week, otherwise early next week. So that's good. A while ago, months ago, we approved, or you guys approved, getting the balcony done with all the ceiling, everything. So they came in finally last week and did all the crack filling and all the caulking and all that kind of stuff. And then today they actually did the ceiling and that kind of stuff. So it looks good. We can't have anyone touch the balcony for 3 days. That's the part we're a little worried about, making sure no one goes out there. But we do have the doors. There's plastic in front of the doors on the outside. We have caution tape on the inside, so they shouldn't go. And then we have flower plots and stuff on the outside, like by the sidewalk, so hopefully no one tracks through. But already it's night and day difference. So I think the $1 million question is gonna be, how does it hold up? But right now it looks amazing. So the thing I was looking at, Annette, I don't know, where did we put the mower? Did you put that somewhere on the agenda, or was I just talking about it?
Yeah, it's on there. It's just not on the printed agenda. It's
Okay.
on there.
Under
One of
me
the the items that we added.
later?
Actually, this is already on there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah, it's number F.
Under
Still
administration.
later.
Yeah,
I'll wait.
everything's on there.
I just didn't know top 1 hour later, so I'll wait.
All right, any questions for Steve? On to Chief with his report.
Yeah, you guys have it in front of you. I actually added some pictures this week for your pleasure. So, you guys have any questions? The only thing I can bring up is for the PD construction, the gutters actually went on today. 3/4 of them, they didn't bring enough product with them, so they'll be back in the next day or two to finish that. But glad that's going to be done. And if you guys don't have any questions about anything on there, we'll talk Piasta days whenever you guys are ready.
You guys participate in the training out at Epworth as well?
No, just we had our own the day after. Yep. It was really good training.
Great.
Yep. School is very good about us coming in and they support us to come in there. So that's nice.
As far as staying on the training, because at the emergency management meeting, they were talking about expanding their training more next year as far in the county, having more people involved. I know they did, victims and what have you. It doesn't look like we did that here.
We did not do that on our end. It's more or less the schools have to, it's mandated through the schools and the county that they have to have that training every year or every other year, whatever it is. We just did our own and then we can always branch off and add that for future.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, they were talking about, there were apparently a lot of parents after the fact volunteered for the next time they do it, like if they need like crazy parents showing up.
Right.
And I was like, oh, yeah.
We've experienced this in real life. And,
Yeah.
I honestly feel we're ready for any scenario. I mean, you're always going to have your issues,
Right.
you're always going to have problems come, but I think our guys are very well trained that we're ready for any scenario, put it that way.
Have you guys ever thought of, and just think of last fall, where that situation happened? Because I know the kids and you guys go through a lot of training to get yourself ready for a situation like that. Have you ever thought of teaching parents what to do and what not to do?
So we train the teachers. We go into the schools, we do, active shooter training for teachers, not for the kids, but we do it for the teachers. It's never been brought up for the parents. I mean, more or less, I know what you're getting at, but I think a lot of it is just education. I agree with you, like some kind of education, what the parents are supposed to do. But when an event like that happens, what they do is they try to tell the parents, meet at the fire department or meet somewhere to gather your kids. The problem with that is everybody gets so emotional and so affected by it that they're just rushing to the school no matter what. The problem is they can't get to the school because roads are blocked or whatever, foresee whatever is going to happen. They don't listen, and that's the biggest
See,
problem.
I'm even thinking something, and might be a bigger conversation later, but like simple things like don't text your kid because they could have it on vibrate and they
Right.
the gun.
And you know how well that's going to work.
Well, I never even thought, like, it never even crossed my mind not to do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm just thinking, at least if it's out there, they're like, okay, I'm gonna do it, but I shouldn't. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because it didn't even.
And I could talk to Tom about that, Tom Berger, and, like, see if there's something we can put together for parents, and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But yeah.
I never even
I can
thought
look
the
into
kid's
this.
phone's on vibrate, and I just text him and
Mhm.
I just expose where he's at.
Correct. But every parent in those type of situations are gonna call their kids or text them to make sure they're okay. Yep. Unfortunately, that's the reality of
Human
life.
nature.
Right. Yep. For Piasta days, we talked about this at the work session. Stacy, you had to take off a little bit early on that, but we basically covered it. We're ready to go for it. We'll be blocking roads. We're doing a new route. Did you see that? Yep, we're gonna go down to Drina and Cox Springs. I think it's gonna take less people. It's gonna be safer. It's gonna open up more of the major arteries of Piasta. I think it's gonna be a better route, but this is a good trial to see if it's gonna work. So I think it's gonna work fine. I think it's gonna go well.
Is it gonna be open down there yet?
That's why I was
It's
smiling.
not open
I knew those
yet.
guys.
It will be open.
getting a little nervous.
I've talked to Dean, and Dean said he's gonna make sure it's gonna be open. And if he doesn't, I will make sure that it's open.
Of a run lane.
Unfortunately, for the people that live on Leslie and Bren, they're gonna suffer through the run. And like they do every year.
And the parade.
And the parade, but the parade's gonna go past the residents of Bren, so that's a good thing for them.
It is.
So we will put no parking signs up on Bren like we always do every year for the parade, so.
A hilly run.
What?
So there's gonna be a hilly run.
That's why we're trying it out.
That's why we're trying it.
Thank you, Stacy and Stacy's Echo.
Sorry.
Any other questions for the chief? Thank you, chief. Public Works, Dean is not able to be here tonight, so do you have any questions they would like relayed? Mr. Dean.
Except
next
when
week.
Adrena Drive's gonna be open.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, thank you for, yes, making that change.
Actually, I think Stacy's the only one that has that question.
We don't have a direct line to Dean.
Yeah.
Wanna stop by, see how Dean's doing, ask him if, during.
Text him first.
Will,
I did have a question about the emergency alarm system for like tornado warnings.
Yes,
Is that something that we can get on a preventative maintenance program so that
we're not the ones that set them off.
we're not?
No, it's dispatch.
So the ones that
And
are
or the fire
battery
department.
operated though, is that us that maintains those, or is that something we could look at getting on
Sure,
like a battery check?
I'm sure it's on the
preventative
radar
maintenance
now.
type?
pardon the pun, but I think
Yeah.
after this happened, it's gonna be something that,
Yeah, I just think it's
So is
important to
that-
make sure that we get something put in place for that.
because they do sound them at the first Tuesday of the month, I believe at
Yeah.
9 or 10 o'clock. So if they don't go off, that's our signal that we need to,
So is that maintained by us or by the county?
we maintain them. They set them off and the fire department has the capacity to set them off too.
Yeah, something this time of the year, a couple times a month or something, check on them.
And it's kind of a hit or miss, because if you set them off, then people are wondering, why are the alarms going off? So we try to be preventive on our end and let people know on Facebook that we're gonna set them off just to test them ourselves.
At least like a battery test or something.
Yeah.
all right. We will move on to B&K engineering report. Mr. Thompson.
Before I dive into that, you can open a drain anytime. Dean's just keeping it closed. Some documentation out of the developer, and you could open up just for that and then close it again immediately afterwards. So that shouldn't be a
It's
problem.
on record now.
Yeah,
I'd
there's,
like to hear it.
We'll get it taken care of.
I got big shoulders. You can blame that one on me. That's all right. You guys have my report there. I'll ask questions after this. I do want to point out the Riley Court stormwater stuff. The homeowner there did contact the county, I think thinking the county had some sort of jurisdictional authority over the city. And that's been clarified that that's not the case. I did look through the records with that project in depth, and I found two things. Number one, the landowner was claiming that there was no drainage easement through there. And there is in fact not a drainage easement. It's even better. It's a utility easement, and on the plat, it says for purposes of overland drainage and maintenance as well. So there is in fact a drainage easement there. It's 10 feet on one side of the property line, 5 on the other. So it's a little off balance, but there's 15 feet there. Within that 15-foot drainage easement, there was intended to be a graded ditch. Last time I talked to you about that, I said that it's flat down there. It might even be reverse fall. There was a note in the file, a letter that the engineer at the time, Jim, walked the project prior to acceptance. And they both said that the project was constructed according to plans and specifications. Subsequently, I talked to Dean specifically about that. And I said, when you walk that, was that ditch prominently graded as it was designed to be? He said, absolutely. He said, somebody's filled it in since then. no one knows who, and it might, the homeowners might be ignorant too. Their landscapers might have done it, who knows? Might have filled in on its own with sediment over time. Regardless, it's hard to say that it's not performing the way it should when it's not constructed the way it was intended. And so my recommendation would be for somebody to put it back the way it was intended, evaluate how it works. And then you can determine whether it was not intended or it's not meeting its intended design. I believe the design was sound. It was consistent with the ordinances in place. No, as I've said in front of you guys probably dozens of times, no storm sewer system is intended to work all of the time because that would cost too much money. But it is intended to work with a certain frequency of storm. And so I believe that ditch would carry it. I don't love the design, I'm not gonna lie to you, but it's common around here and it works typically. So I would say that somebody needs to reconstitute the ditch as it was intended, let it operate and evaluate it at a later time, whether it's working or not. I will note that play set that's constructed out there is probably constructed on set easement and would need to be moved by the homeowner for any construction that would need to occur out there. So that's where I stand. I think that's a proper and pragmatic approach to moving forward with that problem. And we just see where it goes. Additionally, I will add, I know that I have talked to Dean about this, but through Annette, we did find a water leak out there apparently that was probably adding to the water that's out there. But again, the ditch should carry it, you know, if there's a water leak out there.
So what are our options to who would fix it? What are our options?
There's the $1 million question. When you can't determine who did it and who's responsible for it, you know, I don't know. I don't think it cost a lot of money. It's gonna cost some political time to deal with people getting access and doing whatever needs to be done. Excuse me, if we could determine who's responsible, that would be easy. But having talked to both homeowners on both sides, they're like, it wasn't us. Okay, talk to the city, it wasn't us. And I'm certain it wasn't the city because once we accepted it, there's nothing to be done. There's no responsibility there. Pretty common when a homeowner is building a home or a landscaper comes in to put in a lawn to make it nice and flat because it's easier to maintain, it looks better. And I would say that it's probably lies with them, but it's dang near impossible to prove it. And so then does it go to the individual homeowners? You've modified the design. You've modified the construction. It's not per the design. You need to put it back. And they're going to say, it's not our problem, it's your problem. And then there isn't a sound end to that.
You have any idea cost estimate wise on what it cost?
I would guess that you're probably looking under $5,000. Somebody come out there, grade it, seed it, stabilize it, because it's one of those things that you know, Justin. We're gonna try to grow seed someplace where water's supposed to run, and which is always hard. And that's kind of how you end up in these situations a little bit too. People fix those erosion areas and they fill in a little bit more and a little bit more. And so you're probably in that magnitude of cost. You might be a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. So maybe there's a cost share opportunity there. Everyone just says, hey, it's a third. Don't know if that's acceptable to anybody, but in this case, when it's difficult to identify who's responsible for it, they want a solution and they should probably participate, if not be bearing the whole thing, but.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, well, so I got a complaint from somebody that lives on Heather, which, not my mom and dad.
Let me clarify.
They don't, I told them to complain to John.
We all do.
Yeah,
Tell everybody.
ignore. So his backyard would be, like facing west, so he's got those new houses. And he's complaining about the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
So
okay, so
is
if
it-
we do that street,
Right.
then are you gonna have to keep going down the line?
Are they complaining because of the backyard or their side yard?
He had pictures. I just gotta watch pictures and videos of rain and everything, but he, all through his backyard, Cause he's that last, it's at the Ebbing houses, so he's, you know, he's right by that big storm drain. So he's basically showing the same thing as Matt is, where your whole backyard is like a pond. And obviously, that was probably pictures from that day that we had all that rain. Which is what I said, I'm like, well, I mean, that's not common to have, and it hasn't really hardly rained much since, but, I'm worried that if we start to do one, then it's gonna be the other, and then it's,
Precedent.
And you're probably 100% right, everyone's watching it.
yeah.
The one thing to consider going forward, we can't, it doesn't apply to these things, but I talked, kind of cast a net across the company about this issue and what options are out there. And what a couple people in the Des Moines Metro said that this has been an issue for them, you know, right, this backyard overland drainage thing. And so they've changed their ordinances for developers and homeowners. Again, I'll tell you, I've said it before, I don't need more work, but basically they require a survey when it's completed. They require a survey before a homeowner builds. They require a survey when it's at. Maybe this is more for Justin's world. He's gonna get more work. But then every one of those steps along the way, there's a documentation as to what was there. And then along with that, there's also an ordinance of how much slope can you have in your backyard? Because if one person has too much or too little, that kind of hurts the whole system. And having those controls on that, because, you know, on this particular one here, it's supposed to be a relatively consistent ditch down through the backyards. It's not, because of the modifications that have occurred. It still would perform fine, but, you know, one neighbor does this, well, that impacts the next neighbor. You get this goofy situation going on that could impact the drainage if there's not enough topography there. So, like I said, I don't love this design. I live in a neighborhood that has it. And there's many of them in Asbury that are just like this, dealing with the same issues. But it's allowed. It works most of the time. It just can get soggy sometimes for a while.
So we are 100% confident that we signed off on it, it was graded properly.
According to Dean, he was one that physically walked it, so
But now it's not.
now it's not. Yep.
Solutions tonight, suggestions, or?
Do we need to look into what he's talking about with the similar ordinances as a possibility?
It doesn't solve this problem, but
Future problem.
you're gonna have these type
We're
of
continuing
developments.
to develop.
Subsequent phases are gonna look just like this one. They're gonna be built just like this.
At least there's stop gaps in there that you should be able to identify if something happens and when it happened. Within a modified time.
Yeah, and you know, we could say no more of that, that there's at least gotta be a pipe down through there. Tell you again, there'll be an event that exceeds the capacity of that pipe and it's gonna run on the grass on top of it, just like it's supposed to. And so there's really not a great way out of this situation. Water wants to flow downhill, and when you build it that way, it's gonna go where it needs to go. You can't put it all in a pipe.
Would you like me to pursue that?
Let's talk more about it, maybe next work session. Yeah, let's just add it to that. I think we need to kind of talk through it a little bit more.
We need to address this situation too.
Well, yeah, I don't know
Talk a
that
little bit
there's,
more about
Yeah.
I mean, what do we want to
Lucky
do?
is the city that's
We're
messed this up.
sitting on this situation. We've kind of been exonerated from being at fault here, and I'm not trying to say we didn't do it or we didn't say it was okay to be done. But again, yeah, if we do Riley, we do Heather, and
Well, I guess that's my point. I mean, because it has to be addressed, the situation has to be closed. Right? I'm assuming someone's waiting for a response somewhere, right?
that 1 year is.
Yeah, someone's waiting for a response. So I think somehow we got to address that.
okay. So what's the feeling then of the council at this point? I'm getting the feeling that it's not where we should step in and offer any financial assistance.
I agree, as long as, if we're
I agree with that.
100%, Dean's 100% right, that when we left it, we took control of it, that it was done right, yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, do we draft a letter or a response that says the city, after investigation, has found that the ditch, whatever you want to call it, was to code when we accepted the modifications when the,
Whatever, like,
yeah, blah, 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 yeah. And saying that pretty much, we feel like we did or the city did their part, their due diligence at that time. And this appears to have happened after the fact.
do we ask them to return it to its original state?
So it'd be the whole street, right?
Would
It'd be every
I
resident.
don't know, would it be
No.
every resident or just the bottom residents?
Um,
I'm the back.
That's a great question. I think to be fair, you probably need someone to survey the whole ditch and, I mean, the problem's at the bottom, right? The rest drains. Some of it not great, but it drains. I think if you're gonna ask one person to return it to the way it should be, you probably need the other 10 up and down that ditch to.
The problem isn't gonna go away. We just say it's up to you.
Right.
Then the next homeowner who buys that next house, we're gonna be back here the first.
Yeah. I mean, as a possible olive branch, I mean, we could offer, and again, to pay for the survey of what needed to be done. That would be a minimal, I would expect. Or not.
I don't think it'd be too much just on it to just topo up and down that drainage ditch. I mean,
No, you're probably,
half day.
2-3 hours in the field and 2 or 3 hours office time, I guess you probably have the surface ready. I mean,
Yeah.
Probably be looking at $1,000-1,500.
I mean, as a possibility, I mean.
Right, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I just.
We're trying to
If we
be-
don't fix it or it doesn't.
Will there be a possibility, I'm throwing this out here, it's not financial participation, but you guys do own a backhoe and someone knows how to use it. They reimburse you for that time.
Oh, city goes and fixes it ourselves and then,
Pay the city wages.
I mean, it's our easement, correct? I mean, it's,
Yeah, the easement's granted to the city to maintain that ditch. Now, this necessarily maintenance, in my opinion, it's rectification of an issue.
I mean, your major cost in that's gonna be keeping it seeded. I mean, getting the lawn to grow and
It is. And typically in these situations, and quite honestly, a roadway situation too, you're asking the homeowners to water it. Because it needs to be watered slowly for it to grow and establish roots. If you do nothing, it isn't gonna grow and it's gonna wash away.
do we have enough, I guess Dean's not here to ask that question, if we have enough manpower to do that at some point in the November, like, timeframe, kind of like off mowing.
You need to do it before the end of September because the seeding window
Yeah, that's
closes then too. So otherwise you're waiting till next spring. And the more, I threw it out there as a possibility. I don't think it's a great option because then all of a sudden you own it. I mean,
Yeah, we did it once, we're gonna do it every.
Yeah, you're gonna just take care of it.
We're gonna do all the other.
And say if we do it for them, then we're gonna be doing it for the next street over them. However, anybody else that thinks they have an issue.
More conversation. About how to deal with it, right?
Do we want to send some responses that we are continuing to look into this then? Or how do we want to respond to the people who've asked us to look into this?
That's on our agenda for our next work session.
I think maybe, do we put a letter out there that states, hey, we've come to a conclusion. The city accepted it, graded as specs. We are looking into solutions.
I think at that point, you're gonna hope that we're gonna
Right,
take the brunt of the fixing it.
yeah. If we're looking at solutions, it sounds like we're looking at a solution to fix it and we're gonna fix it.
I think we said that.
I say a joint letter that we can put together, just what you stated.
Yeah, I can do that.
and not with any promises that we're gonna be looking into anything. And then just leave it at that.
And again, this is the facts that we have at hand. If someone could tell us something else that said something happened that we were responsible for, something completely changes the course of action, but based upon the facts we have, we accepted it in an as-built condition consistent with the plans and specs.
And do we provide them with documents or we just leave it stated in that letter? Because I think it's gonna be next is, I wanna see them.
Sure. Yeah, I think copy of the letter of acceptance, a copy of the plat that shows the easement, a copy of the sheet that shows the grid. I think those are the three things that are facts that's what we have for those things, three things.
Okay.
I'd love to have photos. I mean, so one of the things, talking to a few of the homeowners out there, they're like, we got photos of building a house. Love to see it, because I'd like to see
What that is.
what that looks like, because we don't have those.
Well, and I think at that point, once we provide that information to them and they say we have photos, then that's when we ask for them.
Yep,
Okay,
that would help a lot. Timestamp that, which houses were built and which ones weren't at that time.
I do know that I spoke to Craig and any new homes that are being built, we take a picture of the lot before it's dug. We take a picture of it when they dig the foundation, or excuse me, the basement. So we see where the dirt's being piled. So that will be helpful too. So we'll just keep those in the permit files as we move forward. I know it's a little added extra work, but again, it's CYA.
Have we started that already?
Good call.
So enough on that. Do you have any other questions on any of the other 8 topics I have?
I really appreciate you providing the information.
Oh,
It's very helpful.
I appreciate you reminding me to get it to you. so.
You're
It's a Nets world we're all just living in.
No.
If anything comes up, you guys know how to get a hold of me. So always here to help.
Appreciate that. Next up, we have a listing for MSA Jake Deaver. Is he online?
Jake, are you out there?
He was at one point.
That's not his number.
Okay. All right, we'll move on, and if there's anything, we've got this update here. Questions from it, we can get those to Jake as well. Addressing the sidewalk, the Kelly Oaks items, water main extension, SRF. All right, so we will move on. The mayor has nothing to report. Well done, Mayor. Thank you. Next, public and zoning met August 5th. Review zone request from B&C LLC. Rezone property from A1 to C2. So this is a recommendation from planning and zoning to rezone the parcels from A1 to C2.
Anybody has any questions on that? The next steps would be to accept the recommendation or deny it. If you accept it, then we need to set a public hearing, which is the next agenda item.
Motion to accept if we are so inclined.
I'll make a motion to accept rezoning of Jim B&C LLC's property from A1 to C2.
I'll second.
Lexi,
Justin, I.
John, I.
Jeff, I.
Motion carries. Moving on to then the resolution to set a public hearing for the rezone of parcels 141130003 and 14114 from, I did probably, A1 to C2. I'll go back and check the tape later.
I would ask that we set the public hearing at the next meeting, which is August 27th.
Make a motion to set the public hearing, 3 zoning parcels. Rezoning the parcels 1413003 and 141130004 from A1 to C2 for August 27th.
I'll second it.
Lexi, I.
Justin, I.
John, I.
Jeff, I.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next up, resolution application number 1 submitted by Conley Construction for the Kelly Oaks Multi-Use Trail Project. This has been reviewed and recommended to approve.
And so it begins.
Make motion to approve, pay application number 1 submitted by Connolly Construction for Kelly Oaks Multi-Use Trail.
I'll second it.
Lexi, I.
Justin, I.
John, I.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, we have resolution approving pay application number 9 and the final pay application for B&K for the Piasta Street and Birds Road turn lane.
Again, staff has reviewed and recommends payment.
Make a motion to approve pay estimate number 9, final payment submitted by B&K for Piasta Street.
Second.
Birds.
Oops, sorry.
Long one.
Lexi, I.
Justin, I.
John, I.
Jeff, I.
Motion carries. To resolution approving contract between the Core Distinction Group and the City of Piasta to conduct a comprehensive hotel market feasibility study.
Hopefully you had a chance to look that over. This will be a comprehensive study for the entire city, which is well overdue.
Yeah.
This is the study just for the hotel.
Yes. They'll also have information in there that shows you what a hotel will bring in and what kind of leakage we have because we don't have a hotel. So it would be ancillary things like restaurants, shops, and items like that. So it'll be a very comprehensive study.
Yeah.
And it's something that will have a decent shelf life too. And it could come back that we're not ready for one, or it could come back and say, we don't recommend this brand. It could be a different brand of hotel. So it'll be interesting to see what comes back.
I'll make a recommendation for Core Distinction Group's proposal for a comprehensive hotel market feasibility study.
I'll second.
Lexi, I.
Justin, I.
John, I.
Jeff, I.
Motion carries. Resolution approving the purchase of a new mower from Mighty Sales and Service for the Parks and Recreation Department.
Supposed to be mighty.
It was my fault, last minute entry,
That's all right. Got a rush.
as are all of these.
So Stacy's been waiting to tell us about this.
The last 3 items Stacy can tell you about.
Yes.
That's what she gets for skipping out on the work session.
So, no, I told you at the work session
I
that
know, just.
everything was going wrong, and it continued on Friday, when our mower just stopped. So basically I had budgeted for a new mower this fiscal year anyway. Our current motor is now finally at Mighty Equipment after Public Works. It died on Spiegel, so trying to get it up Spiegel dead was a feat, which whatever is done. So it finally got to Mighty Equipment today. Everyone I've talked to believes the engine is gone, is what, I'm not sure how, I'm not sure what happened, but that is the belief. They are a couple weeks out as far as fixing. So I thought no time like the present to spend the money that I wanted for the new mower anyway. So that is what this quote is in front of you, is for not currently involve anything for a trade-in, because quite honestly, he doesn't have a number that he could possibly give me for a trade-in right now until we know for sure what's wrong with our current motor. So I'm not sure how all how everything's gonna work out, but we do need a mower. I mean, everything's gonna continue to go. We have tournaments out there. Right now, we're kind of sharing with Public Works so that we can still get some stuff done. as I said, the money is budgeted. It's not asking for anything that's not already in the budget. Unless you guys have questions, that's where I'm at.
So we don't know if this old mower is gonna be usable at all or fixable at all?
I do not know.
And if it is, if it's a reasonable cost, we could have a backup one or a.
We could, yeah.
The thing I do want to point out though, that this mower's got 1,500 hours on it. Okay, that's a lot of hours.
I'm just saying, if we could spend a little bit of money
Oh, sure.
to get up and running as a backup, as a
Yes,
whatever.
yes, theoretically. Or sell it out right after that point if we didn't need it, yes. Once I know that number, I just don't know that number.
They could, I mean, we got it budgeted, we need it, I don't think it's.
So it looks like your new mower is a Kawasaki, is it?
So, in the email, they don't have any Kawasaki's in stock. They have Kohlers in stock. So they're both 26 horsepower. The current motor we have is Kawasaki. So I'm not necessarily opposed to going with Kohler, which is what we could get tomorrow if I said, let's go for it. If we do decide to go with Kawasaki, they are gonna add $200 to this for shipping fee, but they can order it for me and get it. It sounded like semi-soon as well.
What's your preference?
After our motor just blew up.
Put it at $1,500 too.
True.
Double the
Yeah.
lifespan.
So from the people I've talked to, it was 6, 1/2 dozen other, like they. So honestly, personally, I'm fine with going with Kohler and getting it tomorrow so we can keep going. But I don't have like fast knowledge. If one of you guys have like a better, Kawasaki is much better. We've had a couple, what are they? Oh my God, what's the word I'm looking for?
John Deere.
No. We've moved to Skag ever since Mighty M Equipment went there. Like it's kind of just in-house. No, I want to say rebate, but it's not rebate. The recalls on the Kawasaki motor. But they were easy recalls that Mighty M did for us right away. But other than that, I didn't have any issue. Public Works does have Kawasaki right now for their Skag, so.
And she says she has no knowledge. She's learned a lot.
Kawasaki, Kohler, I don't know.
She has no preference. She has
Right.
all-
I don't know specs. I don't know, like, is it different oil filters? Is it different? I don't know those answers.
Well, the nice thing is it's local purchase. We can get it serviced and,
Correct.
I mean, at this time, we don't need to approve which.
Just the
motor-
amount, yeah.
We can approve the amount and then she can pick her motor.
and I did put in there that if we do decide to go with the Kawasaki, it's a $200.
$200 fee.
Right, correct. And that's something that I can improve, she can improve internally, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of a new mower from Mighty Sales and Service, Park Recs Department. Value on that, for up to 15,000,
That's what we have budgeted.
That'll cover it?
That's fine, yeah.
up to 15,000.
I'll second.
Lexi, I.
Justin, I.
John, I.
Jeff, I.
Motion carries. Go. Resolution approving additional work at Kelly Oaks Park.
And Stacy's back up.
Yes, this is another one that kind of came up at the end of the day yesterday. Dean was chit-chatting with Connolly and then was talking to me. And the more I think they talked about it and the construction that's gonna be going on up at Kelly Oaks, the more he wanted to, and to convince me to want to do parking stalls up at the end of Mila. The reason, I guess there's 3 parts of this, so I'll start at the end and work my way back. The thought with putting these there would be, it's a place for people to be able, we are always thinking long-term. Long-term, we always wanted something there, so we had 2, one smaller area, one bigger area. If we have an event at the pavilion, that has 180 people, it's 80, there's still someone could go park here, walk and not interrupt everything happen at the pavilion. So it was always something that we wanted to do. Timing wise, we just didn't initially put this in there. Now that County Lake's there, we were talking more about it. And they thought that it was a good time, especially with all the construction we're gonna do moving forward. Perfect world. September comes the playground. There's gonna be a lot of big equipment and stuff still there. Gonna be hard to park, hard to use the trail immediately. Fast forward to next fiscal year, next summer, obviously we hope if all goes as planned, that we're building the pavilion and then obviously finishing up the parking lot, all of which is gonna make it strategically hard to do parking around big equipment that's there. So the idea is that they would have an entry point to be able to use the portion of the park that is complete while we continue to do maintenance on the other side of the park. This hasn't gone to the park board. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. It's just something that Dean brought up and I kind of love the idea of to be able to do it. As far as money, there is money there to do it. That isn't, it's not gonna be a ton. We will be able to offset 49% with swap money. So really, we're looking at around 93 of city money. Fire away.
Is the parking on street or off street?
It'd be off street. It'd be at the end of the cul-de-sac.
And how many spots?
10. It didn't. I had to ask Dean what it was, whatever for. He said 10, correct.
For $9,000.
I said I'd work my way back up then to the first two items on there is more like riprap, more to do with washout that has occurred at the park, bleeding to the culvert, and then right where our playground site is going to be, so just flow of water that we need to do some maintenance on as well. So a portion of that is that as well.
So those first, all three items are in the 18 grand.
Correct.
Well, nine dollars.
Yes. It's gonna be 18 and then we get reimbursed some, yes.
I'll make a motion approving the additional work at Kelly Oak Park.
I'll second.
Lexi, I.
Josh and I.
Jeff, I.
Motion carries. On resolution approving REAP application and local effort for Kelly Oaks Park projects. That sounds like Stacy.
It is.
It sounds like Stacy.
So obviously we talked a little bit at the work session, but obviously Trisha, our rep from ECIA, is working on the REAP grant. As she was going through it, there's just kind of been some goal list items that she wanted us to do. This was one of them to put it on. Just saying what we already said, that the city is going to contribute this amount of money. That number came from the same place my number beforehand, if you looked in board docs, came from. What we have there, what it's estimated to be, like our park reserves, what it's estimated to be at the end of this year after all those projects are completed and paid for. And then with an addition of the 100,000 that the city allocates each fiscal year to. This comes from, that's the final number you used, correct? We were going back and forth before the meeting. So that's where that 286 comes from. It's a fluid number, like I'm aware that things could change a little bit. As far as for this, it's just making a resolution saying that the city is contributing this to the pavilion in order, she thought it would get us a couple extra points on our. It's money, I think it works, and it's already something we're doing. We're already contributing to the park. And that's the money that we'll have there to contribute to the park.
Questions? Seems like a no-brainer. Need a motion.
Make a motion approving the REAP application local efforts for Kelly Oaks Park project.
Second.
Lexi, I.
Josh and I.
John, I.
Jeff, aye. Motion carries. We'll open it up for citizen comment at this time. If any citizen commenters are online.
I was gonna say, were you watching? Like, time that perfect.
I thought maybe he wanted to citizen comment.
I'll let you know.
It's more than up. All right, I'll need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Lexi, I.
Josh and I.
John, I.
Jeff, I.
Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Who seconded?
Justin.
Adjourned.
Sorry for all the additions.
Moving forward.
Yes. Couple minutes to that.